Awesome. Okay, I see more people joining in now. So excited to have you guys here. C3 is back in action. We had a little bit of a reprieve, but we're really excited to be back. Be back with our caregiver community and sharing with you guys some awesome new information about LinkedIn. I know I'm excited about this one myself because Emery here is a pro who you guys will learn shortly. Okay, great. All right, I'm letting a few more of you join in here, but I'm gonna go ahead and get started here. So good afternoon and welcome everyone. My name is Jasmine Alfonso. I'm the manager of City and Community Initiatives for the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. We're super excited that you're able to join us today for today's webinar series, the Caregiver Community Connection C3, presented by the Elizabeth Dole Foundation and powered by our partners at the Wounded Warrior Project. Our goal is to bring military and veteran and family caregivers engaging content on important topics, provide peer connection, support opportunities, and we're also very pleased to have the support of the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs who join us as partners. Today's webinar is LinkedIn 101, the basics every caregiver should know. Will feature Massachusetts Dole Caregiver Fellow, alumna, Emery, and Policy and Programs Manager, Molly Ramsey. Before we get started, I wanted to mention to you all, this is a recorded broadcast, and please let us know if you have any suggestions on future topics. We want to hear from you, so feel free to send them that way. We have a lot of information to cover today, but we'll take questions throughout the webinar. So feel free to interact with us through the Q&A box that's located in the bottom of your Zoom control panel. I'll be taking note of all the questions to make sure that we get them answered during the Q&A portion of today's programming. As a bonus, we'll be selecting 4 winners from the episode today. 2 winners will be from HHCC and 2 winners are going to be right here in Zoom. So today's winners are going to receive a $25 Amazon gift card and a Wounded Warrior Project journal. So good luck to all of you. And as a huge bonus, the Elizabeth Dole Foundation has joined forces with LinkedIn and the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs to offer military and veteran caregivers 1 year of free access to LinkedIn Premium. During the episode today, Molly and Emery will explain why this is an incredible offer and how to really utilize LinkedIn Premium. For those of you that are joining us from Facebook Live, thank you so much for being with us today. Our Hidden Heroes Caregiver Community page, welcome. Please submit any questions you have by commenting on today's videos. We'll be interacting with you through those comments. We'll also have polls during today's episode, but for Facebook Live participants, we'll be putting those polls within the comments section. So feel free to interact with us. That's also how we pick our winners. So the more engaged you are, the more chances you have to win the prizes today. And a recording of today's webinar will be available and shared following today's session via email. Now, please join me in welcoming Emery as we get started and she shares with us all the tips and tricks to LinkedIn. I know I'm super excited to learn. I feel like I need to make a lot of adjustments here. So Emery, go ahead and take it away for us.
All right, thank you, Yasmin, and welcome everybody to today's webinar going over LinkedIn. What I want to show with you guys is that as a caregiver, you know, for a lot of us, employment is a really important part of our identity and also usually an economic need that we have as we're caregiving. My journey as a caregiver began probably about 8 years ago, and we discovered my husband was injured after a couple of deployments over to Iraq, and I think it's a very similar story to many of you all. I became part of the Elizabeth Dole Foundation family when I became a 2014 Massachusetts Dole Fellow. And then I also ended up joining the Elizabeth Dole Foundation originally part-time, 10 hours a week. I started the Hidden Heroes Caregiver community for the foundation. I was then promoted and moved on to working as the Fellows Program Coordinator. And those were 2 roles which, you know, have greatly impacted my life in a positive way as being a caregiver, but they also have always stuck with me as I've moved on in my career journey. I've always kind of very much a lesson I learned from the senator, like as you move forward, always make sure you're trying to leave a ladder for everybody else, behind you to, climb up and move on. And so I learned some, tips and tricks. I'm not, certified expert or anything, but I really wanted to get on here to share with you guys out there different ways about using LinkedIn to help find, new job employments and advance your career. For my past three positions, I have been recruited off of LinkedIn with different companies more in the corporate sector. And LinkedIn is an amazing tool out there that if you use it and you can get your profile and everything set up, you can really take a brand new approach to job hunting. Because when you go and fill a lot of the resumes and stuff online, it's usually, I think they say it's about 6 seconds that the recruiter even looks at your resume. It's you dealing with applicant tracking systems and there's a lot of unknowns, and LinkedIn kind of breaks down that barrier. So what it does is it gives you the ability to not only find and apply for jobs, but you can also, professionally network with other people. You can, if you look at jobs, and I'll show you in a minute, see maybe where's the recruiter posting for the job and reach out and talk to the recruiter. So you're kind of breaking down some of those barriers and using this as a tool, and also having yourself out there all the time saying, hey, this is me, this is my career field, this is, kind of what I'm looking for. And it's really, it's a great and amazing tool and opportunity. So if you haven't signed up yet through Hidden Heroes to get your free LinkedIn premium subscription, go ahead and do that today, and definitely, start, advancing your career journey. So give me one moment as I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So,
That's great, Emery. And as Emery mentioned, she did work for the Elizabeth Dole Foundation. So we're so excited to hear about her career progress and what she has made here. And for her to share, she actually created this one pager that she's going to be sharing with you here. We are going to be sharing this one pager that really explains everything Emery's going to walk through today. We'll be sharing that in the chat so you guys can link there to follow along. We'll also be sharing that on HHCC. So this is really great tools that Emery will walk through with. She even added book recommendations, which I'm super excited about for her to share more. So check that out. You'll be receiving that within the chat box on HHCC.
okay, thank you. And so this one, LinkedIn, there's so much that you can do. So I kind of try to pick out 5 top things you should do and 5 top things to avoid, to give kind of a grounding start for running into LinkedIn. Basically, the first thing when you create your LinkedIn profile is you want to make sure that your LinkedIn and your resume are up to date and match one another. So if you worked at job A on your resume, you also want to have job A listed on your LinkedIn. You don't have to always include as much details on your LinkedIn, but you want to make sure they mirror and complement each other enough so that if a recruiter is looking at your LinkedIn and then they get your resume, they're not like, who is this candidate? It's very important detail to do. Another part with your LinkedIn is that you want to have a professional looking headshot. And that just means, it doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to go and pay for a very, expensive corporate headshot, but a basic one of like, neck up, shoulders up, in a professional suit, no, print or anything on your shirt. It's just, hair down or up, whatever you're comfortable with, professional, makeup and smiling. Try to avoid photos with other people in it, even if it's a corporate or work event. Photos of your kids, photos. I've seen people, in bathing suits. You don't want to have any of that unless you're a very specific person. Say your whole job is, I don't know, bathing suit, like social media influencer. But 99% of the time, that's not, your career. So you really want to have that professional looking headshot, and that's the first and sometimes only impression that you're making. So I can't stress that enough. That's the really big thing. Also have a bold professional headline, and I'll show you in a minute. LinkedIn can help out with that. But basically that it'll be, your name, John Smith, and then the headline will be, networker for, nonprofits, or kind of have it summarized in a few words, your career or what you're looking for or your employment goal. And just, it doesn't have to be in depth. You don't have to have it be dramatic or long, but just a couple of like key points or words that really hit on who you are and who you want to be as a professional and where you want to go. Also, another important part is to customize your LinkedIn URL at the top right hand of your profile. And this way, when a lot of job applications are asking for your LinkedIn, they are wanting to know what your LinkedIn profile is. And right here, I'm just showing my profile. I have the headshot. I did not do a background photo. I just couldn't honestly be honest with you. I couldn't pick a picture I liked, so I just kind of left it neutral. I don't do anything super fancy with mine. You can see my title. You can see, the company where I went to school. You can update, your profile section here with all sorts of information that you can see. You can go through everything, but the important parts when you go to update right here, which you won't see on mine because it's a little bit different. They'll have you on the contact information, and on your up to date here is where you go in and change your profile information. Sorry, I'm just moving a box. So you can see right here, we have this, but you want to change your right here is where you change your name. So you can have it be whatever your first and last name is. And don't, on here, if you run a nonprofit or you do anything, don't put that in as your profile name. Keep it as your professional name itself. You can edit the content of what makes your public profile. You can edit visibility. For mine, it depends on a recruiter could see my picture, but random people off the internet cannot always see my picture. You can change, visibility and all these different, just go through and kind of find what you're comfortable with sharing for your LinkedIn there.
Hey,
But
Emery,
this,
you
yeah,
may have froze on the LinkedIn page. If you could
okay,
exit out of your screen and then reshare. While you're doing that, I'm gonna just go ahead
okay,
and share this poll here. So while Emery's pulling up her LinkedIn to kind of show you guys exactly as she's walking through it, what I want to show you guys here is we put up a few poll questions, so please answer that. The first one is, are you currently using LinkedIn? Yes or no? The second one here is, have you used LinkedIn in your job search? Again, yes or no. And then the third one here is, do you list your caregiving role on your LinkedIn profile or resume? So this will give us a sense, and we'll be posting this poll on HHCC as well. So feel free to submit us your feedback. That way, as Emery continues sharing all this helpful information, she'll be explaining some more about this. And Emery can see here that it looks like a lot of people are using LinkedIn, but definitely not for their caregiving role. So it seems like you guys came to the right C3 episode. And Emery will explain this here. So I'll let Emery go ahead and take
okay.
and walk us through her profile here.
All right, are you able to see the profile now?
Yes, we are. Thank you,
All
Emery.
right, perfect. Okay, good. So on my profile here, what I'm saying, you can see the headshot. I don't have a background because honestly, I couldn't pick anything. And for LinkedIn, sometimes less is more. You don't want to have, anything too controversial, anything too over the top, either direction, political affiliations, anything. You just want to keep it neutral because the point of LinkedIn is professional connections and finding your career. So just kind of leaving it neutral there. You don't run the risk of offending anybody. What I was showing before, I don't know then now if this worked, was how to, if you edit your public profile and URL right here is where you can go and change your settings to have it be like what you see at the top of my screen here where it says Emery and has my name. You can click on this link, and then that's kind of the basics of what you need to do to set up your LinkedIn. So you have the headline right here that's bold. It has the information there. It has kind of who you are, where you want to go as a candidate. What do you want to do? It has, work, employment, everything here. You have going through mine and about section. So the about section doesn't need to be super crazy. What you can do, I usually pull is from your resume. If you have like an objective section, you go ahead and put that in your about section here. Get it done. You write it out, even if you've been caregiving and you can want to add that in here, go ahead and do that. Just word everything. Kind of my, I guess, word of caution for that is that I just be careful sometimes about the way you're sharing your details. And what do I mean by that? For that is some jobs, sometimes you don't want to overshare your information. You don't want to say, I'm caring for my beloved son. I've been doing it for 5 years. I don't have any time to do anything else, because if you're putting that information out there, employers are going to see that and they're going to be like, oh, this person can't work. So it's really, using a kind of a neutral language for yourself, like the example I gave here of just, caring for a disabled veteran, leaving that there. You don't need to fully disclose, intimate details about yourself. Your employer, no matter what, does not have the right to that. And, they don't need to know beyond what they need to do. No, if you have 4 people that you've hired or using respite care to care for your care recipient at home, and that's how you're getting to work and you're doing a good job, that's fine. It's not your employer's business to know how you're getting to the job. So I'm always cautious of, protect yourself in that way. Another really important part, and this, it may not seem like it applies to caregivers, but is right here about the profiles. When a recruiter is searching for a candidate for a position, say, they work at their company and they've put in, searching for candidates, this automatic search will skip you if you do not have a current job listed. So if you've been out of the workforce for 5 years and you don't have a current job listed on your LinkedIn, you may not even be showing up in all the search results that you could show up in. And a way to kind of work around this is to almost create what we call, has been kind of called as a dummy profile or like a dummy job. So basically, if you're in class, you put like, student of what I said here, online marketing, or you could put, looking for, and then a role in software development, and then put, within there a seeking new opportunity. And that way it will pull your profile up in these new searches that come out. And when a recruiter is looking at it, they'll say, oh, okay, I understand this is where, they're looking for. But that's part of where it's kind of on the back end, it's just a computer algorithm doing this. And you don't want to be missed out because you did not put an active role in there, even though you've been doing stuff. And, you don't want to diminish your chances of, being able to get back, kind of, it's another barrier to entering the workforce that you can put down for yourself. And this, I'm going to go over these real quickly, and then I'm going to switch back to my LinkedIn. So I'm going to show you how you can show recruiters that you're open to work, which is amazing. And especially with the premium subscription, your profile is going to be bumped to the top of the search results. They're not going to have to filter to like page 5 to find you. You're going to be bumped up. You're going to have access to contacting recruiters. And when you show recruiters that you're open to work, LinkedIn is kind of working behind the scenes for you 24/7, sending your sending your profile out to potential recruiters who will then can reach out to you about a job opportunity and take the discussion further. So this part here, I am going to switch back over to the screen. And then if you have any other questions, definitely let me know.
Well,
Yes.
First, I'm amazed about the premium part. I didn't know that it brings up your resume, one.
Mhm.
And I also didn't realize that recruiters would look to see if you've had a recent job. So of course, that would take a lot of caregivers out of the running if they're
Yeah.
coming back into the workforce. So I think those two are two helpful hints for you guys of what to put on there so that you don't get lost in the shuffle, and that your recruiters and others that are looking for jobs are able to see that you're open to that. So that was a really good tip. I just wanted to say that again. Just
Okay.
wanted to throw that out there. That was great, Emery. Thank you.
Definitely, no problem. And anything to help. There's so many things, but those are, like I said, that was probably one of the biggest things. Is you don't want your profile to not be brought up. So work on that. If you want to show recruiters that you're open to working, you will see on your profile on your page right here, it says show recruiters you're open to work, and you can control who sees this. And what's great about that is that if you have a current job, you can do it so a recruiter from your current place of work will not stumble upon your profile. Basically, it won't be pulling up in their search results. So you don't have to have that awkward conversation at your current position that, oh yeah, I am, looking for another job. So it gives kind of a nice little bit of privacy to that. And this is a very key important part here for job preferences, is telling us what kind of work you're open to. And for job titles, locations, what I really recommend is going on and looking at some jobs that you're really interested in, and what is those titles? Add the titles in here. If you want to be, entry level marketing, if you want to go into entry level, sales, or directors, or whatever you want to do in your position, find titles that you feel qualified for and that you like, and put them into here. Add your location if you want to do open to remote work, start date, job types that you're looking for, and then this, as you do each section here, it will go ahead and it's kind of building a search profile for you. Then when you choose to see who you're open, you can do it for all LinkedIn members, and it'll give you this is a new thing LinkedIn roll out, a little banner that says open to work. So everybody can see that you're open to work, but a caution for that is that if you're at a current company, they will also see that you're open to work. And then there's another privacy where you can do recruiters only. So recruiters who are in other positions or other companies, they will be able to see that you're open to work. And this here is a very important part to work on, because when you're logged off LinkedIn and you're sleeping in the middle of the night, but maybe your recruiter is, at 2 a.m. looking for a candidate and they're doing a job search, this will be sending your information out consistently, and then you'll be popping up in those searches. So it's a really great way to just to always kind of have it on that you are looking for a job. And that is what I've done when I've been at other positions and like a layoff was coming, or maybe the at work was not fitting well with my caregiving needs. And knew I had to go and find another position to work at so I could remain in the workforce versus, consistently losing my job. So I've turned on show recruiters that I'm open to work. And then, you get some recruiters that come through and it's a great, potentially a great fit. You get some who are just, I feel like they need to touch, 5 people on LinkedIn a day they need to reach out to. And, so don't be dismayed by that. But doing that is probably where I've been the most successful when I build up my profile, is making sure recruiters know that I'm open to work. And once you start doing that, they will be reaching out to you. And it may not be a flood of people, so don't ever get dismayed, because you only just need one person with that right job, with that right fit for you. And just keep, you got to be your own cheerleader through this whole process, because job hunting and career and employment can be very stressful, I feel like, as a caregiver and working through. And so working through. And another part that I wanted to show is that if you're looking for jobs. So if you're looking for jobs here on LinkedIn, you can click up to the job section and start. This is tying into the show recruiters to work. You can search by your title, your skill, your company, the city or state, corporate. I did a basic search here earlier for corporate paralegal. And what's the really good part here is that if you see right up here, there's my job. So if you find any jobs that you like that are saved here, you can go to them. You can set up job alerts. But what I think is two of the most important parts for caregivers to really focus on right now is the resume builder, where it will help you build out not only the resume, but working on building out your LinkedIn profile. And it will help you, especially if you're re-entering the workforce after many years, it kind of really helps bring up to date, what to use, where to find, what are people looking for in LinkedIn. And then another good part is, finding interview prep. And, it's very scary when you're taunting and talking to people that you don't know, how do you do? So these are under the job parts. These are really great, especially if you haven't even fully built out your profile yet. Going here, looking at the jobs, looking at the resume, kind of, I feel like can give you some, research and knowledge and guidance as to how you want to design your profile. What do you want to look like? What type of jobs that are currently out there in LinkedIn that you want to look at, and with LinkedIn Premium, what I want to show right here is that you can see jobs that are available in your area. And if you click on a job, it will bring up, how many people from LinkedIn have applied to this job? How many people are at the company? How many connections do you have? What is the job looking like? The company fills out their job descriptions. Pay range. Sometimes you can find the pay range for the job, what benefits are added, and you can get additional insight. If you look, it's premium only, additional insight into the company and medium tenure to see kind of what does the company look like, and is this maybe a company that you would want to work at? Because if you look and if none of this is matching up with what you want, then maybe it's not a company you want to apply that. But it's really great for just kind of getting that sort of inside look. And again, you can only see a lot of this information if you have a premium, and that's where it's really important to get the premium account. And that's what I've been showing here. And 5 things that I want to go over through really quickly, because I don't want to run over too much time, not to do with LinkedIn. And this is more for me talking. It's kind of reiterating what I've said before. It's do not overshare. Your first impressions really do matter. So LinkedIn's a professional-based social media site. Your posts can be seen by other, including employers. So my thing is pretty much, if you'd be embarrassed to be on the cover of like the New York Times or your hometown newspaper, then don't post it on LinkedIn. Don't post anything political unless you're working on a political campaign and you're like, oh, I did X, Y, and Z. Don't post anything controversial. Don't or just refrain from posting a lot. You don't want to scare off potential stuff. You do want to share like, oh, I've finished a training certificate, or I've done this. Those are good things to share, but you don't really need to get into what you may see on other social media sites on LinkedIn. It's not the place for that. Another part too is when you're speaking with a recruiter via InMail, which is LinkedIn messaging, do not provide a list of demands that you're going to have as a caregiver or employee. And this is kind of going back again as to your protection. Basically, at first, what you want to do is you let the recruiter via the messaging kind of get to know you and you get to know them. And open up that door of the relationship, build up the relationship with them. So you can start getting that first telephone screening interview. So you start talking to people and connecting with them. And for me, for my part, I found it's always disclosed, if you do accept a job offer, that's with HR, that's around the time you want to disclose, your most important needs as a caregiver and the benefits. And I put here until FMLA kicks in. And for me, this is also very job dependent. For when I was working, for instance, at the foundation, they knew all my caregiving needs. They were flexible and they were able to provide that. But when I was moving more into the corporate world, they immediately hear caregiver and they're like, oh, they're not going to be able to do that. They don't see that we are amazing multitaskers, that we are, in a work environment under stress, we're amazing. We learn so many skills and stuff through our caregiving experience that greatly improve the workforce. And they're not always, but a recruiter or even someone hiring is not always able to see that. And so if you start dumping a lot of information ahead of time, they might be scared off. So I always say, I don't want someone to prematurely close a door on a caregiver. So it's really just, disclosing kind of what you sort of need to do for bare basics so that you can get your job done, but not over disclosing or, anything like that. It's just making sure that you're protected. Because I know as a caregiver, you're going to kill it when you get out there. You're going to be awesome. You are going to do this in the workforce. And it's just making sure that you're given that ability to shine for yourself. Another part is for not to do LinkedIn is spam. You only receive a few InMail credits, even if you have premium. So don't email or LinkedIn message like 500 people. Save that for when you apply to a job and you like the recruiter, or you really love this job, looks great, and you have a question and you want to click out to talk to somebody about that, or maybe you want to know, or mutual connections. So just make sure you are saving that, because you only get a certain amount each month and then you have to wait again until you have some more. Another big part, especially with LinkedIn and job searching, is being honest with yourself. And this was a hard lesson I've had to learn quite a few times, is looking at your current situation and realistically planning out what you can or can't do, what you want to do as a caregiver. I know when I first went back into the workforce, I wanted that full 40-hour week, high stress, high demanding job. I was like, I have to get that or I'm not good. And that was internal pressure that I put on myself. And when in reality, and if I had stopped to think about it, I could not do that. And, I went out and I did this before the foundation, and I went out and I was doing this, and my husband's in and out of the hospital. Then all of a sudden I find that I'm balancing somebody, in and out of the hospital with all his medical needs, not knowing what's going on. I'm balancing the kids. I was living with my mother-in-law who's still helping me out, and I couldn't do it. And I had to step back. And I really wished back then, someone was like, you can go back into the workforce, but really be realistic. And also that there's no shame if you go back and you're only doing part-time and you're setting yourself these expectations for full-time, or you want to work part-time but your family needs you to work full-time. There's no shame in going back for how many hours a week you go back for employment, what type of employment you get. The fact that you're out there and even if you're not employed yet, but you're out there and you're looking for a job, like that's awesome. So just, being honest with yourself, setting yourself those goals, and that will set you up for future success down the road. And like I said, when I re-entered the workforce, I started off at 10 hours a week doing the Facebook group for the foundation. I was not working full time. I was not the level where I'm at today. I've gotten to the level where I'm at today by starting to be realistic with what I could do and mapping out my goals and planning it out and saying, all right, if I need to get to this level, that means, what, if I do take another job, I'll have to pick up more childcare to help out with the kids. I will have to get more respite care. I will have to do this in order to get to that goal. And is that step attainable? And so it's really, writing that out And then when you're talking on LinkedIn and looking for jobs, it's really, kind of pulling all that together. It'll help guide you. And then the last part real quickly that to mention too is don't forget your safety. I know caregiving and especially, looking for employment, it's a very emotional and vulnerable time. And I make sure that you're safe online because LinkedIn, just like everywhere else, also has, dishonest people on there. Not saying it's prevalent, but just make sure that you're talking to a recruiter, if you're talking to someone and sharing, your contact information, that that they're a legitimate person at that job. Or if you're going on LinkedIn and hiring somebody to do your profile or to build a resume or, anything, you don't have to do that, but they do offer it. Make sure it's a legitimate person that you're reaching out to, because I just want to make sure that you're, not getting scammed. And LinkedIn has some more staying safe kind of links down here. So you can really look into that, especially if you're not familiar with the platform, to see what looks good for you. And one other part that I skipped over a little bit that I wanted to run back to is there's LinkedIn Learning, and LinkedIn has a bunch of self-help guides. So the self-help guides here on LinkedIn are amazing. And you can go into there and look. And it helps you with everything from how to change your email address, closing your accounts, known issues, building profiles, step by step, getting what to do, messaging, email, growing your network, finding jobs, paid features, content, discovering groups. I mean, this breaks down everything that you would need and want to know for LinkedIn. And you could spend hours going over this. I've included this linked here because I think it's, really great. Get into this, start reading it, looking at, what do I do? Looking at, there's a lot of questions and best practices shared here. So what may work for someone in one field may not work for somebody else in another field. Another part I wanted to show with the profiling is, I know a big question is, where do you share your caregiving experience? For me, where I'm at my position, I ended up removing part of my caregiver experience off of my LinkedIn profile because of the jobs that were reaching out to. The recruiters were getting a little bit confused by that. So even though I do openly talk about it in all my interviews and I bring it up, I was literally running into, what do you mean? And they're thinking caregiver, that I was doing paid. They were just getting confused. So I had switched it out. But in other positions, you put it in right here in your career field, or you can put it down in your recommendation. You can put it down in, your volunteers, your interests, everything that you worked on. I have a lot of the projects that I worked on here listed in my accomplishments. As caregivers, I know Yasmin wanted me to mention real quickly too, is recommendations. So reach out to your friends and ask them, to get recommendations, or, start giving recommendations. I love, any of the caregivers that I've worked with at the foundation, I love to give a recommendation to help them out in their career and their journey going forward. And to get that done. But definitely for the caregiver, you can put it in here wherever you worked inside the foundation, but wherever you started your caregiving journey, work it here. And if you're not sure how to word that, our partner, Wounded Warrior Project, has an amazing, caregiver and career resource center. And if you go on hiddenheroes.com and, look under our resources, connect with the WWP, connect with a couple of other VSOs and veteran organizations out there, which have career counseling and Summer 5 Funds, another one, sorry, career counseling and resume writing workshops. And they can help you depending on your job goal, writing your career kind of caregiving bio, and how do you want to put that down, and just keeping it in, especially depending on, you want to write it to the type of job you're applying. Like if you're going in the nonprofit field for medical or military, expand it out this way. If you're going in for another position, you'd write it out a different way. So definitely reach out to our research partners in that direction to get that customized one-on-one help that you may need for your stuff. Yasmin, I know we're worried about time, so I'm just
you're doing
checking.
great. Yeah, you're doing great. I know a lot of questions are coming in, guys.
Yeah, I just saw a bunch.
A lot of good information. So I want to make sure we have just enough time to answer all these questions, because Emery, I've already learned so much within this. I'm taking my own notes.
Yeah.
But I do want to bring in our programs and policy manager, Molly Ramsey. Molly is incredible in every way. But she is such a resource when it comes to understanding employment, and she's going to be sharing with us an AARP employment guide. Emery was actually a part of it as well. That's actually where I met you, Emery, was at this AARP employment event.
Yeah.
I'm super excited for Molly to share more about this. And this really explains what the Elizabeth Dole Foundation and our partners are doing to really make sure that employers understand caregivers. So I'm going to let Molly Ramsey take it away here and share with you this really helpful guide that you can also provide to future employers as well. So Molly will give you kind of the inside scoop here of this amazing resource that we've worked with our partners.
Yeah. Hi everyone, so excited to be joining you all. Let me just share my screen real quick. Are you able to see the PowerPoint?
Yep, we're able to see it, Molly. If you want to put it into the presentation view.
Yep, perfect.
There we go. And get back to the project. Okay. There we go.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you all so much. So as Jasmine mentioned, we worked with Hiring Our Heroes and AARP last year to develop a supporting military and veteran caregivers in the workplace, a practical guide for employers. So this guide does target employers a little bit more. Our goal in this was to educate the workforce on how to recruit, retain, and even hire military and veteran caregivers. So throughout the booklet or the guide, it provides a lot of context to who military and veteran caregivers like, what could their lives possibly look like on a day-to-day basis. And I know some of you are probably saying, my life does not look the same on a day-to-day basis. And that is also covered in there. We try to explain as much as we possibly could about the military and veteran caregiver experience. So we worked with close partners from AARP, Amazon, Bank of America. We even worked with the White House administration, Phillips, Hiring Our Heroes, KPMG, the Department of Defense, Department of Homeland Security, the Small Business Association, Hilton. All of these 22 partners were in the room helping us build this guide, and we brought them in because they obviously have the hiring and retention aspects down, but they're also leaders in the military and veteran hiring initiatives. So we brought them in. Let's educate them on what are the needs and what did they see as challenges from their perspective, and what are some tips that they wish they knew when hiring and retaining caregivers. So as I mentioned, we did try to highlight as much as we could about the caregiver experience. So Emery was also one of our case studies, as well as Jennifer McInday, who was our former HHCC coordinator, and then Dole Caregiver Fellow Sharon Grassi. So they talked a little bit about their experience, as well as some recommendations for caregivers when joining the workforce or trying to make a change in your workforce, and then they also made recommendations for employers. And I think it's really helpful to kind of understand what are some tips that we're telling employers. That way you kind of know what you're trying to look for, and how you can even help them change to get to a better caregiver friendly employment status, which I'll talk about in just a few moments. So here this is towards the end of the guide, and it's just a tip sheet. It's about 4 pages long, and we talk about the recruiting, the hiring, and then the retention of military and veteran caregivers. And for those of you who are already in the workforce, this could be really helpful for you to take to your HR department and say, hey, I'm a military and veteran caregiver. This is something that I've just learned about, and I think it would be great for you all to maybe just read. And there are some things that are in here that have no cost associated with them, such as we all know, there's always those disclaimers at the bottom of job postings of, this is a veteran-friendly, military spouse-friendly organization, or whatever other disclaimer language there is. So the first one on this first page here is just identify yourself as a caregiver-friendly organization in the job announcements and advertising and marketing materials. hopefully by doing that, that means they've read this, they kind of understand what is needed. And another thing that we also talk about throughout this tip sheet guide is if you are trying to retain caregivers in your workforce, what does that look like? So one of the suggestions that Sharon Grassi mentioned in her case study was if there is management turnover, making sure that there is a management plan for that employee who's answering to that manager. That way, when they have a new manager come in, that work plan doesn't change at all. So that's super important because you don't want to agree upon, hey, on Tuesdays, I have a standing appointment for my veteran. I'm going to be gone from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m., but I'll log back on after hours to finish up the necessary work and to meet the 8-hour days. And then when there's a new management, that completely changes. So that's a tip that we have in there. We have tons of great tips. So highly recommend you going through this and reading a little bit more about this. So these are just some quotes from our task members. And one of my favorites is actually this first one from Home Instead Senior Care is, how do we prepare them to go back into the workforce? First acknowledge the work that they do. Understand that the sacrifices that they make on behalf of their loved ones, and then make it possible for them to do both. That is something that I remember the day in the room where it happened for all of our Hamilton folks, where we were really putting together this guide and had the focus groups, that it was really making sure that they had the impression of they want their employees to be successful in both parts of their lives, whether it's in the caregiving life and then as an employee, they want them to be successful. You can't have one or the other because then you just get caregiver burnout. You get employee burnout. So it's just not healthy all around. So if you have a well-supported employee who can also be super successful at work and then also successful at home when caregiving, that's the most important thing. And so here I have the guide link. You can find it. And you can also go to this link here to find the military caregiving guide, which we also worked with AARP in. This also has just helpful resources for overall caregiving, that even though if you've been in your caregiver journey for 20 years, there might be something in there that might be helpful. So highly recommend looking into that guide as well. And then last but not least, so Emory has been talking about LinkedIn and how to really beef up your LinkedIn presence. So we are working with the Department of Veterans Affairs to offer free LinkedIn premium subscriptions for 1 year to military and veteran caregivers. And I'm sure Emory can talk about, there's so many courses that you can take, just so many helpful tips that you can utilize. You can also take her sheet that she created that we'll be sending around after this. And really amp up your LinkedIn profile by using premium. You don't have to have premium to have a really awesome profile, but premium definitely helps. It helps you gain so much access. And so if you're interested in getting a 1 year free subscription to LinkedIn Premium, please email info@elizabethdolefoundation.org. Again, it's free. It's 1 year. We'll send you a link and we'll give you instructions of how to utilize it or to verify it. And then you'll be good to go for 1 full calendar year of free LinkedIn services. So that is all I had. And I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have. Emory, yes, please.
I was gonna say, definitely basically get the thing. My most recent job, so I had to leave my prior job because pandemic hit, caregiving kids, it was not working out. So I stepped down from that role. And then, and Molly, everyone got my panic emails of, what's going on. I was given this free LinkedIn Premium upgrade. And then I got my new job now, which works in my caregiving schedule. My mom, I have 3 kids, being my mom. So this is like an amazing free opportunity. Don't miss out on it. I really just want to emphasize, underscore, I don't know, exclamation points, whatever I can do for the caregivers to get this. It is an amazing tool in your tool belt. You need it.
Yeah.
So,
and one thing I will say too is whenever you do email the info account at Elizabeth Dole Foundation, in the subject line, just say LinkedIn Premium subscription, or just say LinkedIn Premium. We'll know what it means, and we'll know what thing we need to just instantly send to you. So that makes it just easier for that inbox. So yeah.
We'll make sure to include that. We have our EDF staff on the back end. If we can make sure to include that in HACC, let them know at info@elizabethdolefoundation.com, and then also provide that here in the chat box. Again, make sure the subject, just so that we make sure we see it, make sure you put that LinkedIn Premium. So Molly, thank you so much. I know you've worked so hard on the employment and all of your efforts at the foundation. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. I'm sure we'll get a lot of great questions. We provided the links to today's slide, to Emery's creation that she created for us, that guide, and then also the AARP employment guide. So those links are provided to you here and in HHCC, but we're gonna get through. We have a lot of questions coming in hot here for both Emery and Molly, so feel free to jump in. But before we get to them, I want to announce our 4 winners here. So our winners of the Amazon gift card, $25 gift card, which will be an e-gift card, and then the Wounded Warrior Project Journal, which we will ship to you. Our winner from HACC is Jen Paulson, and our winner from Zoom is going to be Colleen Johnson, Jim White, and Jen Walker. Our little worker EDFBs are going to be reaching out to you to get your email and your address. So congrats to all the winners. They'll be putting the winners' information so you guys know within the chat box too. So make sure to reach out. You'll want to get your prizes. So now let's go ahead and take it away with some questions here. For first question, would you suggest using a LinkedIn generated resume? Emery.
Yeah, if you do not have an updated resume, you don't know where to start from the basics, start from that. You know, as the most important part of your resume, it doesn't have to be super crazy fancy, but make sure you know there's no typos, no errors on it. But if you've got the information that you need, a LinkedIn basic resume will suffice and will work for you. The only caveat to that is that if you're applying to federal positions, which usually aren't really on LinkedIn, you'll need to have a federal resume, and that's a whole nother ball game. So with the exception of that part, yeah, I would use the LinkedIn resume builder for the basics. If you don't know where to go, you can always, you know, expand on that, but that gives you a good solid foundation where to start.
Awesome. That's great. That's helpful to know. I didn't even know LinkedIn generated was a thing. So that's great that that's an offer that they can be able to have. Okay, next question here. How many years of employment should your LinkedIn profile have, specifically for someone who has an 8-year caregiving gap?
I know generally with resumes, from what I've done, they say, you know, go back 10, 15 years, kind of depending on career field and what you have. For where you have that solid gap of the 8 years, you know, you weren't not doing anything. So you weren't, you know, 8 years down in, you know, the Caribbean, enjoying the sun life and, you know, not having care in the world. You were managing budgets, you were doing medical care, you were doing employable skills. So this is where, especially where it's an 8-year gap, I'd say connect if you can with like Wounded Warrior Project, or, you know, look at AARP guides and work with somebody, you know, if you can get one-on-one. I also know, I believe on Hidden Heroes, we have a coaching. I might be wrong on that one, so sorry about that. But work into that, and to get that where you write out what you did as a caregiver, and that's where I was saying use professional language of, you know, cared for, you know, wounded service member, provided, you know, X, Y, and Z, and take your caregiving skills and write them out as employment skills, because you weren't doing nothing for 8 years. You were doing work, you just were not, you know, it wasn't considered work that you're compensated for. Add that in under your job history. I definitely would not put that under the volunteer history, because that's, you know, a solid gap of time, so that you can show what you were getting done, and, you know, and put it out there. And if a recruiter asks and says, oh, well, you know, you're just caring for your husband. Okay, that's a spousal duty. And I know that's a big trigger there. But, you know, say, no, it wasn't just, you know, caring. I was doing, you know, med vac changes. I was doing, you know, medications. I was, you know, when you start listing up professionally into language that a recruiter can understand, then they will realize, oh, you weren't just, you know, making sure your husband had dinner every night, that you were actually doing above and beyond what is a normal spousal duty, that you were doing employable skills. So definitely work with someone with that. And and get it done. And also post an HHCC. There's quite a few, there's a whole army of us caregivers out there who are employed that we would love to help you out. And, you could do a rough, posting of this is what I want to look like, and we'll jump on and we'll help you out.
That's a great answer. And I will say, every caregiver I've met has incredible organizational skills, and things like that you don't even think about, or how to prioritize time management. There's so many things that translate in that you all do on a daily basis. So as Emery said, definitely thinking of how to translate your caregiving role, because you do so much and you have so many master skills that employers desperately need people like you that can help out in that way. Emery, given the pandemic, there's a lot of questions coming in about remote work. How do you find remote work via LinkedIn? What do you recommend if you do need something that is full-time or part-time remote work, given your caregiving role?
I am actually currently working remote right now because I live right outside of Boston, so everything gets shut down because we just keep getting hit with this pandemic. So a lot of jobs right now nationwide realize you can't always go, you can't go into the office, or you might not even be allowed to go into the office with current situations. So in a way, this pandemic is horrible, but it has really forced normal corporate America to open up their eyes that remote work doesn't mean you're a slacker. It means, you are still putting in the time and you're getting the stuff done, but you might be doing it. Like, honestly, I'm from my bedroom right now. I'm in a corner desk in my bedroom. My bed's right over there, and that's why I have the green screen. You get it done. So I'd say start applying and looking for jobs. And if you need temporary remote with the pandemic, they can do that. You can also, under the search there, open to remote work, I showed real quickly, you can add that in there. And you can also look for remote positions on LinkedIn. Now, a lot of companies with remote positions, besides usually call service stuff, want you to be remote within, say, 50 or 100 or 200 miles of an office. And that's sometimes kind of standard, which can be really, rough to work around. But there's not hope out there. I always kind of say, what's always kept me going is you just need to find that one job that fits. So there might be 200 jobs that don't match what you need, okay, but you can find that one. Or even if it's a small, foot in the door position at a company. And that I always think about, the foundation, when I started way back when, was it 2014? Yeah, afterwards. I think I was like the third or fourth employee here. I wasn't, but it was a 10-hour job, and I was, I didn't know, but I knew, I loved who I'd been working with in there. And, and from that, it grew into this big position. So definitely don't be scared to go down a path you may have not considered before with remote work. And, and just be open and just be honest with recruiters and say, this is what I'm looking for. And they may be like, oh, well, we don't have that position right now, but we're going to have that position. We might have something in the future. And then connect with that recruiter on LinkedIn, follow them, follow the company, and keep up. And if you see a position pop up, reach back out to that person to say, hey, I found this position. I've submitted my application, and that way you're not just going through the applicant tracking system. You've made that networking connection, so then they know, and they're going to go into Workday or whatever system that they're using, and then they can pull up your resume and your application and move forward.
That was a great answer, Emery. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. Given the pandemic, so many companies have had to adjust and adjust quickly. So I do think that you're going to see more and more remote positions that are going to come up next year as well. I know there's been a lot of, articles written about this. So I actually think it's a prime time for caregivers who are seeking employment to look out and use these tools that Emery's talking about with the premium access to LinkedIn. There's going to be a lot of opportunities of jobs that are going to start to come out as companies are learning that they can be more flexible. And that really opens a wonderful door for caregivers to seek out these positions. So you're seeing it more and more. So definitely keep your eyes out and know that just because you may be needing that full-time remote position, something may come up for you. One of the other questions, the last one we have here, Emery, for you is, how do you handle degrees on LinkedIn? Like a doctorate, I've finished all my classes, but I'm writing a dissertation. Can I use LinkedIn? Can I use it yet? Can I explain this?
So the way I've done it in the past, so for instance, I was on LinkedIn and I'm going masters or and stuff like that. It's that, so you put down what year you're going to graduate in. So 2000 and say it's 2021. So you'll put down 2021, and when you put your degree, you'll put, you'll say expected graduation. So I would not use like any formal titles yet that come with the degree, because technically you haven't been certified by the registrar of your school as having that. And a lot of jobs, when you go and apply for that position and say you're given a job offer, it's usually contingent on a background check. And part of that background check, they go and they verify your educational transcript. So if you put down on LinkedIn in your resume that you have, some sort of degree, but you have not officially been conferred that degree by your university, when that background check goes through, it's going to pop up, and then you could have, missed an opportunity there. And so it's a little bit hard, but I would put down, expected graduation date, and, just when you fill out the degree information, just put, you're expected to graduate that day, or, this month and this year. But definitely, I wouldn't start using any titles or, anything until you get, I always waited basically until I got my first student loan bill, but, until you start waiting, for everything, and that it's really, it's real.
Absolutely. Emery, I
That's
think
when you really know it's real.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, okay, got the bill, it's for real.
that's what everyone knows, it's real. Well, thank you both so much for being here today. Molly, thank you for all your insight and for providing us with that information on the AARP employment guide and beyond. Thank you so much. Emery, I knew you were savvy at LinkedIn, but this is beyond. I learned so much, and we've had multiple calls. So this is incredible. I can't imagine how much the audience is learning as well, of how to really utilize LinkedIn in the right way for job searching and beyond, of how to really put out that public professional social media profile. So thank you so much for being here with us and for really sharing this with all this knowledge. And the document you created is so helpful. So thank you so much for doing that as well, and going the extra mile for our caregiver community. So we are going to wrap up here. We covered all the questions, and of course, we're so thankful to Emery and Molly. But before we wrap up, we want to make sure to encourage everyone from today's webinar session to join our Facebook group. Emery mentioned that she pioneered that Hidden Heroes Caregiver community page. That is really about connection, validation, understanding, support, and resource sharing. Just like she said here, asking questions to the caregiver community of how they did things. They're full of insight there. And that's what HHCC is all about. So we really encourage you to join that. So if you care for a wounded, ill, or injured service member or veteran, please become part of our community that you can find at hiddenheroes.org/register. Be on the lookout for a follow-up email. All those wonderful links we provided to you, the guide, the AARP resource, the slides, I'll be sending all that out to you, as well as the LinkedIn premium information. Again, through our info account, how you can get those resources and how to make sure we get your email with the correct subject. We'll be sending out all that information to you via email, and we'll make sure to put that information again in the HHCC for those that joined on Facebook. But thank you to everyone for joining us here today. And a big thanks to our partners at Wounded Warrior Project and the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs for supporting this C3 series. We hope you found this session informative, inspirational. Stay in touch with our caregiver community, and just remember that you are never alone. Have a wonderful day, guys, and thank you again to Molly and Emery for being here with us. This is our break back into C3 life, so we're excited to share more content with you. Here you see our next episode is actually next Tuesday, November 24th at 4 p.m. We are actually going to be having an author come and speak to you. So more to come on that. You can catch all of our past C3 episodes on hiddenheroes.org/C3. So in case you missed out, you can still watch them there and learn more about our resources. And again, if you have any ideas for us, feel free to email that info account and send us our way. We love to hear from you all. But thank you to everyone for being here today. I hope you have a wonderful night. Thank you both.